If you have kids or grandkids and you're trying to figure out the smartest way to help with college, this video here is for you. 529 plans are one of the most underused tools in financial planning. And it's not because they're complicated, but it's because people either don't know how they work or they're nervous about what happens to the money if their kids or grandkids decide not to go to college. And I want to address both of those things together today. Because once you can begin to understand how flexible these accounts actually are, especially with a relatively new rule that lets unused money roll to a Roth IRA, then the hesitation mostly disappears. Hey everybody, my name is Faustino Munoz, and I'm a certified financial planner and a behavioral financial advisor. And I love talking to people about planning for the education of future generations. See, education planning is one of those conversations that often comes up early in a family's financial life, and it stays relevant for many years. So let's walk through how exactly this works. And what exactly is a 529 plan? Well, a 529 is a tax-advantaged savings account designed specifically for education expenses. You contribute after-tax money, and in turn, it grows tax-free inside of the account. And when you withdraw it for qualified education expenses, think tuition, room and board, books and fees, it comes out completely tax-free. There is no federal tax there. And there's no federal tax deduction for contributions either. And depending on the state that you live in, for example, here in Florida, where there's no state income tax, there's no state income tax deduction. If you live in a state with state income tax, then you can get a deduction for those contributions. The benefit is entirely in the tax-free growth and the tax-free withdrawals of these dollars, which over 15 to 18 years of compound growth is significant. A quick example, if you put $10,000 in a 529 when a child is born and it grows at an average of 7% annually for 18 years, then you'd have roughly $34,000. If that same $10,000 were in a taxable account instead, growing at the same rate, a meaningful portion of that growth would have been eroded by taxes along the way. The 529 plan lets you keep all of it, as long as it's used for education. Now, the definition of qualified expenses has expanded over the year, and it's broader than most people realize. Tuition and fees at colleges and universities, that's of course the obvious one. Room and board, up to the school's cost of attendance allowance, and books and supplies that are required for any coursework in their attendance. Computers and technology is also a big one if it's required for enrollment. And K through 12 tuition, up to $10,000 per year per student for private or religious elementary and secondary schools, is also a qualified expense. That's a significant expansion from the original college-only scope of these plans. Apprenticeship programs that are registered with the Department of Labor are also qualified. And student loan repayments, only up to $10,000 lifetime per beneficiary though. What's not covered is health insurance, transportation, sports, college application fees. If you do withdraw money for any of these non-qualified expenses, you'll pay income tax plus a 10% penalty on the earnings portion, not on the contributions, just on the growth and earnings of the account. And a recent update has completely changed the conversation around 529 plans significantly, because starting in 2024, as part of the Secure 2.0 Act, unused 529 money can be rolled into a Roth IRA for the beneficiary. No income tax, no penalty. The rules on this, though, are very specific. The 529 plan has to have been open for at least 15 years. The beneficiary of the 529 and Roth have to be the exact same person. The annual rollover is also limited to the Roth IRA contribution limit for the year. In 2026, that's $7,500. And there's also a lifetime cap of $35,000 total in rollovers from a single 529 to a Roth IRA. The rollovers are also subject to Roth IRA income limits. What this means practically is that overfunding a 529 or saving up more than your child ends up needing for school is no longer the same risk that it used to be. If your kids get a scholarship or they choose a less expensive school or they decide college isn't for them, then that money doesn't just sit there unusable and untouchable. Over time, it can be moved into a Roth IRA, and that can give your children a meaningful start on retirement savings. That's an incredible gift to so many kids out there. You may have heard about the grandparent strategy, sometimes called super funding. It's a strategy that's particularly useful for grandparents, or anyone who wants to make a large contribution early in that kid's life. Because normally, gifts above the annual exclusion, in 2026 it's $19,000 per recipient, require the filing of a gift tax return. 529s have a special rule called super funding, or 5-year gift tax averaging though. Lets you contribute up to 5 times the annual gift exclusion in a single year. That's $95,000 in 2026. And you can spread that over 5 years worth of gift tax returns. So what that means is that a grandparent can put $95,000 into a child's 529 right now. And if they make no other taxable gifts to that child over the next 5 years, there is no gift tax consequence. Now, that money starts growing tax-free immediately on that full lump sum. And if they're contributing from appreciated assets, then doing it before transferring those assets can actually save even more. Now, what about tax credits? Well, one thing worth knowing about 529s and education tax credits is that they can interact in ways that do affect your tax and your planning. The American Opportunity Tax Credit gives you up to $2,500 per year for the first 4 years of college per student. That credit does phase out between $160,000 and $180,000 of income for married couples. The credit also applies to tuition, certain fees, but not to expenses paid with 529 distributions. That distinction is important because what that means is if you qualify for that credit, you generally want to pay for at least $4,000 of tuition out of pocket or using non-529 funds to maximize the credit, and use 529 money for room and board or other expenses. Don't use 529 money for the same expenses that you're claiming the credit on. Make sure to coordinate between the two of these to get the best combined tax and financial outcome. To wrap us up here, 529 plans are one of the best gifts that you can give a child. And it's not because they solve everything. College is incredibly expensive and no savings account will fix that cost. But because starting early, even with modest accounts and amounts, means compound growth does most of the heavy lifting by the time the money is needed. And with the new Roth IRA rollover option that's now available, the flexibility argument against opening one it's largely disappeared. So if you have kids or grandkids and you want to think through what a 529 strategy looks like for your family, I'd be happy to set up a free planning call. There's a link in the description below of this video, and please subscribe for more financial planning content every single week.